Yes, Sir Hairless here. Today we have a Patreon request, thank you for this one. This is Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band with the song Turn the Page. I should start off by apologising because when I went to watch the start of an interview with Bob, I often do this with new artists just to make sure I'm pronouncing their name correctly. The start of interviews, they usually say their name. And I found a clip from Letterman. He mentions that Bob has sold over 52 million albums worldwide. So it's dawning on me that the fact I've never heard of him is probably laughable and or unbelievable. But it's true, I don't know Bob Seger or the Silver Bullet Band. I don't know if those two are one and the same. Anyway, that changes today. With him being such a huge name, apparently, I sort of just want to dive straight into it. Firstly, though, as usual, I've looked up the lyrics beforehand, which are on the screen now. It's a song about touring, it seems, his time in his life on the road. Very interesting subject matter for sure, and I'm certainly interested in seeing how these words are set to music.
Now featuring alto on the saxophone. It's an old one. It's called Turn the Page.
An old one. The title of this video says it's live in Detroit 1975, but when Googling this song, it says it was released in the mid-70s. So if someone could clarify exactly what's going on here, that would be helpful.
Some highway east of Omaha, you can listen to the engine moaning out his one-note song. You can think about the woman or the girl you knew the night before. But your thoughts will soon be wandering the way they always do when you're riding 16 hours and there's nothing much to do, and you don't feel much like riding, you just wish the trip was through. See, here I am.
Very quick pause just to break up the video for copyright reasons. I will be doing pauses later on, by the way, longer ones with discussions in them, so this is your official heads up. Interesting though, why do I feel like the song has only just started but has also been going on for a long time? We're getting hints at percussion, some cymbal hits. Harmonically speaking, quite a bare bones song. Accentuates the lyrics because there's not too much going on in the background, instruments, harmony, that kind of thing. Let's carry on for a little bit more.
On the road again, there I am, up on the stage, here I go, playing star again, there I go, turn the page. Will you walk into a...
Okay. Let's do our first official pause here. If you don't want to hear my thoughts, go to the timestamp. This is not what I expected, but I actually don't know what I expected, so I don't think anything would have been quite what I expected. Usually with these videos, I talk about the harmony, how the harmony, which I believe is the most important thing when it comes to music, affects the rest of the music. How the chord changes or the note changes are used to emphasize the lyrics, if there are lyrics, which instruments are being used, all that kind of thing. There's not too much to go on here. And before I take a bit of a deeper dive, with a song like this, I really do think that's a good thing. I said in the introduction that the lyrics I found very interesting. He's a touring musician. That's a lot of people's dream. This video or performance obviously seems a lot later, but it's nostalgic. They're showing footage of him, I guess, from back in the 70s with the long hair.
See, here I am,
in front of the crowd. I can imagine how mad it would have been going on these tours back then. And 50 years ago that is now. Wow, mad. So as I was saying, that would be most people's dream. But this song, I don't want to say it's controversial or could be seen as controversial. It's just quite poignant. It's very candid. Straight away, long and lonesome highway. Negative, engine moaning out its one-note song. Repetition for hours on end. Mentioning a one-night stand here. 16 hours, nothing to do. You just wish the trip was through. On the road, on the stage, playing the star, turn the page. The lyrics in the next verse that we haven't heard yet also look very interesting. So basically, there's nothing glamorous about this, what he's singing about. And this is reflected in the music. How is this reflected in the music? Let me start with the harmony. As we know, songs have different chords in them. You change the chord, it sounds a bit different. Very complex songs can have loads of chord changes, key changes, rhythmic changes. We don't get any of that here. The introduction instrumental with the saxophone. And these blues chords in the piano as well, played on an electric piano, so it sounds a bit like a rock organ. Or a jazz organ even.
On a long and lonesome highway.
We have the low guitar playing, plucking. That's the rhythmic drive. What chord is it? E minor.
You can listen to the end.
And did you hear it move down there? Dum, dum. So moving from an E to a D. And now the chord is D major.
And moaning out his one-note song. You can think about the...
Now it's changed again to A.
Or the girl you knew the night before.
And now back to E. So the first line is just E. The second line is just D. The third line is just A. And then we go back to E. Then we get the next three lines, and it's the same, the exact same three used in the same order. So it goes without saying the song is constructed in such a way to be simple. We're not having these crazy chords, massive sound, all these instruments in there to detract anything from the words. It's simple, it's to the point. What do we have to distract us from his words? Not much. So we listen to his words. We are listening to the story that he's telling us. Same for the melody. It's not in a crazy high register of his. Like I say, this is the first time I've ever heard him, so I don't know what his voice is like. I don't know if he has an incredible range. And from this song so far, it's not giving me much. Overall, things are very reserved, and I think it really forces us to focus on what he's saying in a way to join him in the unluxuriousness of everything he's talking about. As I mentioned before, there's no percussion except for the occasional cymbal tap, just like there. A little to fill in the gap because it's just one chord repeating. We get a moving bass part now into the, is this the chorus?
Say here I am.
Boom, 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 boom. Down the octave, of course. Boom, 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 boom.
On the road again.
And now the hi-hat comes
There
in.
I am.
Teasing us with the percussion, another element now added in. The melody, though, it's still not crazy exciting.
Up on the stage, here I go. Playing star again.
We mentioned before our three chords were E minor, D, and A. But there I go. 1.5 minutes in.
There I go.
We have a new chord now, C. And you'll hear the chords go C, D, and then back to the E minor. Rising up.
There I go. Turn the page.
I quite like that rise up. It adds something to the song. Well, I think I've done enough talking for now, so let's carry on. Interesting song. Really was not sure what to expect here. Quite reduced overall in many aspects. I do think that is probably the point of it. And I really like the lyrics. I think it's a very interesting premise for a song.
Well, you walk into a restaurant, strung out from the road, and you feel the eyes upon you as you're shaking off the cold. You pretend it doesn't bother you, but you just want to explode. Most times you can't hear them talk, other times you can't. All the same old cliches. Is that a woman or a man? And you always seem outnumbered. You don't dare make a stand. Here I am on the road again. There I am up on the stage. Here I go playing the star again. There I go, turn the page.
It's building up, it's building up.
Out there in the spotlight.
Yeah, it's building up nicely. I am really feeling a clear and gradual progression with the growth in it. The melody, though, has not progressed. It's not moved up as things would normally do when you're approaching perhaps a more climactic moment. He's staying the same. The melody overall as well, there's a lot of repeated notes. There's not too much movement. I think it quite nicely reflects the feeling that he's talking about of being on the road, the same thing over and over. It's dangerous for me to say that because I know there'll be someone who comments, "So Hairless, how can you say this about the song, it being monotonous?" I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what he's singing about his life, and I am certain that this song he has written to feel like he's feeling. With songs like this that are repetitive, there's always a risk of becoming boring. That's just what happens when something is repeated. So that's why we're getting this growth. We're now seeing more instruments coming in.
Times you can't hear them talk, other times
The percussion now has earned its place. We can hear the note coming through in the background.
you can't. All the same old cliches.
Simple, but emphasizing the chord changes. We have very few chord changes as we've seen. So when they happen, let's make it a bit more obvious.
Is that a woman or a man?
Now syncopation in the sax.
Man or a man, and you always seem out.
For a bit of rhythmic contrast in there, the idea of 3 versus the idea of 4 common time. I find that line interesting as well. All the same old cliches.
Same old cliches. Is that a woman or?
Is that a woman or a man? Now, I guess that's people talking about him with the super long hair. However, I know long hair was fashionable in the 70s. When I lost my hair at a very young age, I heard these words of comfort quite a few times. At least you're not growing up in the 70s, when long hair was all the rage and the fashion. So anyone watching, if you were alive then, please let me know if I've completely misunderstood this line here, or if that is what he's referring to. What else does Bob do for some variety? Well, some melodic variety.
Times you can't hear them talk, other times you can.
From a harmonic perspective, he's singing. But the style of this song in general, quite bluesy is the word that comes to mind. We get a lot of these chromatic inflections.
Other times.
What I mean by chromatic, it simply means notes that are next to each other. So these two notes are not chromatic because there's a note in between. Chromatic inflections, you change it to be chromatically. So we'll listen to him sing this phrase again, and he's kind of in between these two notes, but the point is he's not going as proper harmony would dictate. He's approaching the note lower down, not quite hitting it, so he can slide down, which gives it this bluesy feel. It's closer to, with that bit being chromatic. It's halfway between the two, but hopefully you'll hear this.
Hear them talk, other times you can't.
And then the very quick do-do-do to finish the phrase. All the time.
Other times you can't. All the same old cliches.
His style of singing as well, it's quite kind of high up, almost nasally.
There I am, up on the stage.
And he doesn't sing with a lot of vibrato. I think that gives the song maybe a bit more of a, what's the word? A homely feel? When you hear someone sing and they have lovely vibrato, I think it's safe to say it's usually an indication that they are either a good singer or have some musical training of sorts. An extreme example would be, think of an operatic soprano. That is extremely heavy vibrato, requires intense technique. Whether or not it sounds as nice, well, that's for each of us to decide on our own. And in today's world, I personally find singing style has changed and what people might think is impressive. A lot of modern artists show incredible technical ability, crazy runs, rapid note changes, choosing when or not to use vibrato. It's a very different style to this way of singing. I think this way of singing is perhaps a bit more relatable to your normal person. It's not a song that you need to be incredibly skilled to be able to sing. I think most people, if you can hold a tune, go up for karaoke, whack this on, and you'll do a good job.
Here I go, playing star again. There I go.
And again, I'd just like to reiterate, that's not a criticism from me. I'm saying this because I always receive comments on every video I do saying things like, why are you critiquing? Why can't you just listen and enjoy? Well, I'm not critiquing. I am listening and enjoying, and I'm simply saying what I hear and how I think it affects the song and how it relates to the song and the words. Let's carry on. Final thing though, saxophone in the background, we get more of these chromatic inflections, this chromaticism.
There I go. Turn the page.
And now these, well, it almost sounds like strings, doesn't it, coming in? Sustained, chordal, transforming the sound, adding a certain level of intensity to the music. Let's see how this one ends. If you enjoy these videos or find them helpful, please consider supporting me. Patreon has a bunch of exclusive benefits, behind the scenes videos, additional reaction content, Q&A videos, and more. For a one-time donation, you can donate me a hot chocolate at the Buy Me a Coffee link, or become a YouTube member for these groovy emojis and membership badges. And a huge thank you to these lovely people on the screen now.
Out there in the spotlight, you're a million miles away. Every ounce of energy you try to give away as the sweat pulls out your body like the music that you play. As you lie awake in bed with the echoes from the amplifiers ringing in your head, you smoke the day's last cigarette, remembering what you said.
I really like that. If you take that change of structure, the change of instrumentation, how reduced it gets on paper and showed to someone, we had these instruments, then for this line, they're gone. Then for this line, we have just the bass and the voice. You'd think, maybe a bit strange. I think it works so well. It really paints the picture of the lyrics.
In the evening as you lie awake in bed.
Lying in bed. There's no music accompanying you, just you and the silence of the night.
With the echoes from the amplifiers ringing in your head.
Self-explanatory there, quite literal word painting.
You smoke the day's last cigarette, remembering.
And here, that music, I can just imagine him walking out for the last cigarette of the night, standing there, blowing the smoke into the air. Very cool word painting, I think. Nicely done.
What you said. Here I am on the road again. There I am up on the stage. Here I go, playing star again. There I go.
And they're at the end here, 1995 Capitol Records. I was going to say it looks like him with the shorter hair at the piano. I would have guessed early 90s, late 80s. I still could be way off, could be the noughties, but I'll guess mid-90s. Well, that song certainly grew on me as it went on, and I'm happy at the end what he chose to do. That was the climax moment. Earlier on in this reaction, I think I mentioned he's not really giving me much to work with as a first-time listener. Again, not in a bad way, just this is my first time hearing him. I don't really know what he's fully capable of because the melody was so restricted, all that kind of stuff. Well, here at the end, there's not too much more to say about the music, so we'll just have a little listen.
Here I am, up on the stage, here I go.
Such accuracy. Let's listen to that go. He hits 3 notes there so rapidly. Let's listen at half speed. And then again at full speed.
Up on the stage, here I go.
Sounds so cool.
Playing Star again.
And there is the vibrato coming through, which just shows that for basically the whole song, he has been choosing not to use it to keep things a bit more mundane, a bit more relatable. It's this idea that he, even though he's a rock star touring, many people's dream, he is also a human who has these thoughts, these sadnesses, these longings to just be home like everyone else. And, you know, you're watching this, you're probably very familiar with him. So it might seem a bit ridiculous watching someone who doesn't know what he's capable of. But that's how it goes. We all know different artists. We don't know some that we probably should. Well, yeah, he has that range in his upper chest voice. Very cool. That one definitely grew on me as it went on. And I guess I can no longer say I've never heard Bob Seger. Comment down below other songs you think I should listen to by him. Thank you again for this request. And thank you, as always, for watching. Would appreciate a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you next time.